My parents are evicting me during my partner's surgery after I renovated their wrecked house, and now they demand I fund my sister's hotel. I've never imagined I'd seek Reddit's input on my personal issues, but it's driving me nuts, and strangers might offer a neutral perspective on the matter. I'll state the main issue, which is that me and my parents, after years of misunderstandings and constant fights between us, decided to revoke my residency on the house. They offered me to stay in and let me renovate myself and promise of keeping it as my main residence. The worst part that hits hard on me is not only the housing, but the timing of their decision, as it feels retaliatory due our latest fights, which included my partner's health issue, which spiked a huge fight between us. My partner will probably require medical surgery in the short future to avoid mortality issues if left untreated. Kindly don't ask for further information on the medical case, as this regards my partner's privacy, and I do not wish to share more. I'm frustrated not only for the betrayal of pouring money and efforts on false promises, but at the betrayal that these people choose to put pressure on a medical emergency to probably teach me a lesson. For clarification, my fights with my parents regard their unrealistic demands towards me of constantly wishing to overshare my private life with strangers, the need to show me off when convenient to them. Otherwise, I'm constantly doing things the wrong way, and I deserve no love or recognition if I do not act as per their standards. Long story short, conditional love with guilt, tripping, and gaslighting about matters of family and personal life. I won't dig deeper than that. It's a pretty standard backstory. The final straw is the fact that due to economic issues, I asked my parents for a small loan to deal with medical costs, and the fact that I had just started a business before we found out about my partner's medical condition, so money was tight for me. They refused because this regarded my partner's issues and not the family's. Partner's family helped the best they could. My family is not economically strained. The irony is that a month after they demanded me to help my sister with hotel expenses, for her to attend a half-month seminar near me, expenses was almost identical to my asked loan. My sister is a working adult. That sparked a huge fight, which ended up in insults towards me regarding my refusal to accommodate my sister and her needs. We have neutral relationship with my sister. Regardless, I did pay for my sister's hotel to help some way and diffuse the situation. Regardless, the backlash was that it's their house legally and I need to vacate the soonest. I asked if they need to utilize the house as rental. I'd prefer to pay up instead of trying to find new house while trying to navigate the medical crisis of my partner. Their response was no, and to vacate the house as they need to support my sister now, which made no sense to me as they changed the story now. For context, they have 2 more rentals for passive income, and besides that, my father is working a high-income job, which confuses me due to the fact that their story changed to their need to support my adult sister. Would I be the asshole if I buy time by ignoring them and letting them sue me if they wish to? They kind of let it be implied that if I test their patience, they might do so. My priorities lie to my partner's well-being and smooth recovery. I do not wish to rush under these conditions. Afterwards, I am moving forward to chance my accommodation situation as soon as possible. That's the skeleton of it. Now here's the meat, because the pattern didn't start this month, and I'm not crazy for seeing it. They dangled the house 2 years ago like a prize for good behavior. Stay there. Fix it up. Make it your main place, my dad said in that bored, managerial tone he uses when he thinks he's being generous. The house was a wreck. I'm not exaggerating. Brown water bled from the taps. The bathroom smelled like a locker room in July, and the previous tenants had punched holes in the drywall like it insulted their mother. I still moved in because the idea of finally having a place of my own felt like oxygen. They said, put in the sweat, keep receipts, we'll formalize later. Family doesn't need contracts. I nodded like an idiot. I wanted to believe it. I worked after my day job until midnight most nights. I ripped out cabinets, scraped tile glue until my wrists burned, and learned to cut copper because the house coughed rust whenever I turned the shower knob. I begged a friend to lend me a wet saw. I watched 100 videos on leveling floors and then did it wrong twice, then did it right. My partner came over with sandwiches and a stupidly bright headlamp and held drywall while I drove screws. We laughed once when a roach sprinted across the counter like it was late for a meeting, and I nearly fell off the ladder. The laughter helped. The house started looking less like a dare and more like a home. Here's a thing I learned about hope. It makes you stupidly brave and very easy to manipulate. I kept every receipt in a binder. Insulation, paint, a water heater, new fixtures for the sink, outlet covers, a security camera because the back alley felt sketchy. I sent Mom photos in the family chat because at first she acted proud. She liked to forward them to her friends with captions like, "Look what our son did. Such talent." Then she'd visit and nitpick, "Why didn't you choose white cabinets? They'd look cleaner in photos," and remind me that certain relatives wanted a tour. She loved the tours. She'd parade people through my home and say when she meant, "We chose that tile. We decided this wall had to go. We thought matte black hardware would be too modern." I bit my tongue because arguing in front of her guests would be disrespectful. Boundaries? Every attempt turned into a courtroom scene. If I said, "Please don't post photos of our bedroom," she'd do a sigh and disappear in a martyr mode. "I can't share my happiness about my own child." Dad would pile on with those quiet little shivs. "You always make things complicated." They wanted access to my life, not connection. There's a difference. Show me off at brunch, then criticize me on the drive home. When I pulled back, they called it withholding love. Fast forward to the health crisis. I won't spill details, so don't ask. It's serious, and it isn't a scrape and go. We sat in a consulting room while a surgeon drew shapes on a whiteboard and used words like risk and timeline. My partner squeezed my hand so hard my knuckles popped. I held it anyway because the squeeze meant they were still here. We left with a stack of paper, a list of tests, and a number that made my stomach drop. Insurance helps, but it doesn't do magic. We did the math at the kitchen table, and I felt my throat close. I've never liked asking for help, but this was bigger than pride. I called my parents. I kept it simple. We're facing a medical thing. We need a short-term loan to get through the next few months. I'll pay it back in a year. I started the business right before this hit, and I'm cash poor while I ramp. Silence. I heard Dad breathing like he'd picked up the phone in the middle of a spreadsheet. Mom said, "What kind of medical thing?" I said I didn't want to broadcast it, that it's private. She went quiet in that fake offended way, then said, "Well, if we're expected to give money, we deserve to know exactly what for." Dad cut in, "Is this about your partner?" I said yes. He goes, "So not a family emergency then." I swear my ear buzzed like a hornet flew inside it. "What does that even mean?" I asked. "It means we can't keep underwriting your choices," he said. "My choices? To keep my partner alive." My voice went loud. I didn't care. Mom jumped to the part where she loves the performance of concern. "We care. You know we care. We just worry you're being taken advantage of. There's so much drama with you lately." Drama. A surgeon looks you in the eye and circles a spot on your body and calls it time-sensitive, and my mother calls it drama. I kept my temper by a thread. "I'll pay the money back. I can send terms in writing if that makes you comfortable." "Dad, it's not about terms. It's about principle. We've already been very generous with the house." "Right? The house. The one I gutted and put back together and now smelled like lemon oil because I actually cared about the floors." I said, "Okay." Message received. I hung up before I said something that would smash whatever bridge remained. I went outside and punched the fence post and split my knuckle. Stupid, yes, but cut the pressure in my head for about 3 seconds. We told my partner's family. They cried and then did something my own family never does. They acted. They pulled what they could. They brought food when we were too tired to cook. They offered rides. They asked what we wanted shared and what stayed private and then actually honored that line. I've never had anyone treat my boundaries like instructions instead of obstacles. It made me cry in the dark like a kid. I didn't tell anyone that part. A month later, Mom called like the previous conversation hadn't happened. She floated in on a breezy tone. "Your sister got accepted to a 2-week seminar in your city. Isn't that fantastic?" I said it was great. "We need you to help with her hotel," she said, and she named an amount so close to what I'd asked for that I laughed, loud and ugly. She didn't like that. "What's funny? You said no to a loan that would help with surgery," I said. This is almost the same number. This is different, she said. This is for your sister's career. Family. You told me my partner's health isn't family, I said. But a hotel for a grown woman with a paycheck is family? That's not fair, she snapped. This seminar is prestigious. She needs support. You're there. You can help. Dad grabbed the phone like a ref blowing a whistle. It's not optional. We've supported you. Now you support her. You refused me. I said, you told me to figure it out. I did. Now it's my turn to say no. It went nuclear. Old greatest hits came out. Ungrateful, disrespectful, selfish. Mom did her after everything we've done monologue. She brought up the time they covered a deposit for me years ago like it was a sacred relic. Dad said, don't make us reconsider the house. That line landed like a cold, wet rag on the back of my neck. I said, steady as I could, are you threatening to kick me out because I won't pay for a hotel? He didn't answer. It was answer enough. I talked to my partner. They said, you don't owe anyone your sanity. I finally texted my sister directly. I can host you for dinner if you want. I can help you navigate the city, but hotel is on you. She sent back a shrug emoji, and Mom said you'd cover it. I wrote, I won't. She left it on read. 2 days later, my mother sent a paragraph thesaurused within an inch of its life about family unity and opportunities and stepping up. I cracked. I shouldn't have, but the thought of them punishing me by yanking the house while we were booking surgical appointments made bile creep up my throat. I paid for the damn hotel. I didn't tell anyone. I just did it, and I sent my sister the confirmation with a stiff "have a good seminar." She replied, "K. Cool." A week after that, Dad showed up at my place with his serious face, the one that makes his eyebrows look like they're stapled to his forehead. He didn't ask to come in. He walked in. "We need to talk about the house," he said, and laid a crisp letter on my table like he was dealing cards. "You'll need to vacate by the end of next month." I stared at the letter like it would change into something sane if I blinked hard enough. "What?" "We've been supporting you for long enough," he said. "We have to reallocate our resources. Your sister needs support right now. It's time for you to move on." "Reallocate resources?" "It's a house, not a mutual fund, and you have 2 other rentals." "That's not your concern," he said. "Then make it my concern," I snapped. "If you need rental income, I'll pay rent." I offered that already. I pushed the binder of receipts across the table. "And we still need to talk about formalizing what we agreed. I put thousands and months into this place." He didn't touch the binder. He looked at it like it was a dirty plate. "You chose to invest. We never asked you to overspend. You told me to fix it so I could keep it," I said. "Your exact words." He did that casual shrug that makes me want to throw a chair. "Things change." Mom chimed in by speakerphone, apparently on the call the whole time without saying a word. "We don't feel welcome in that house anymore," she said, voice trembling just enough to sound like the heroine of a play. "You don't share your life with us. You don't let us know what's going on. It's like you're shutting us out on purpose." "I don't owe you access to my medical calendar," I said. "And if you felt unwelcome, you could have mentioned it before you brought random coworkers for tours." "I don't bring random coworkers," she said. "They're my friends. The woman you brought last month called me the creative one and asked if I planned to upgrade partners when I could afford it," I said. "She's your HR assistant. She's not family." And you laughed. Silence. Then she said, soft as a knife, "You've become very cruel." My dad pointed at the letter. 30 days, he said. "We expect professionalism." "What is this, a layoff meeting?" I asked. "You're evicting your kid because I won't pay for your other kid's hotel and because I won't narrate my life on speakerphone. You see everything through the worst lens," Dad said, and headed for the door like the conversation bored him. "We'll check in about your progress in 2 weeks." I shut the door behind him and leaned my forehead against it. I waited for the old guilt to slither in, for the voice that says I must have messed up bad if they're reacting like this. It didn't come, or it came and I told it to shut up. What came instead was a very old machine in my chest finally clicking into the right gear. Fight or flight without the panic. Not screaming, not begging, just all right. We're playing that game now. I called my partner's parents and told them the situation because lying by omission felt worse than telling the truth. Their mom swore so hard I actually smiled. Their dad said, "You can't handle two hurricanes at once. Pick the human one. The house is wood and brick." We made a plan that protects recovery first. Surgery dates likely fall inside their stupid 30-day window. I could pack boxes between hospital runs, or I could call the bluff and force them to do actual paperwork. Every part of me that grew up in that house says they expect me to panic and perform to their script, apologize, grovel, pay the hotel, trade privacy for shelter. I don't have that energy anymore. People keep asking about my childhood like it holds clues. It does, but it's boring in the way a slow leak is boring until the ceiling caves. I was the errand showpiece. Our son's so talented, sit into microphones when donations were needed. Criticism at home the minute the guest left. Your hair is wrong. Your voice is too loud. You're getting fat. Your friends are low rent. Why did you choose that major? Why didn't you choose that job? You should call your grandmother more. You should come to church more. You should stand straighter in photos. Mom posted every milestone I didn't want online with captions full of we. Dad withdrew approval like a raise he didn't earn. He praised my sister for being low maintenance. Translation, she agreed to the terms. We were never close, me and my sister. Not enemies, just parallel lines. When I started the business, Dad perked up because that's a language he speaks: spreadsheets, targets, growth. He wanted bi-weekly updates like I worked for him. I share the basics. I didn't share the parts that were still fragile. He took that as defiance. If you want me to advise, you need to be transparent. I said I didn't ask for advice. I asked for a quiet 6 months to build. He said, "People who think they have secrets usually have failures to hide." That's the man telling me to be professional while he shoves an eviction letter across my kitchen table. After the hotel fight, my mother did what she always does when she loses control. She dragged the argument into the audience. I woke to a Facebook post. She loves Facebook that said, "Sometimes the people we fight hardest for are the ones who hurt us most." A mother's love is unconditional, but a mother can be tired. No names, but my aunts can read. Within an hour, I got 4 texts. "What happened? Did you really refuse to help your sister? Call your mother. She's heartbroken." I asked Mom to take it down. She said, "I didn't name you," like I was stupid. I told her again, "Stop posting my life." She said, "Maybe if you share more privately, I wouldn't have to process publicly." I told her that was insane. She said I had anger issues and maybe therapy would help. I said therapy did help, and that's why I started ignoring her guilt trips. That shut her up for a day. The eviction deadline sits in the middle of a calendar full of medical appointments. Pre-op tests, consults, blood work. The actual day circled in red like it's a holiday from hell. I set alarms for meds like I'm defusing a bomb. My partner tries to keep jokes alive. They make dumb puns when I look like I'm about to break, and sometimes we laugh, and sometimes we just cry because both are correct responses to this mess. We decided on one rule. The surgery and recovery come first. Period. That means I'm not tearing up the house right now. I'm not boxing every plate. I'm not letting my parents turn this into a reality show with weekly cliffhangers. If they want me out, they can go through whatever actual process exists. I'm not barricading doors. I'm not hiding. I'm also not going to sprint to please them while we juggle hospital paperwork. I told Dad that on the phone. I'll move when my partner is safe. You know the timeline. Stop playing chicken with it. He said, "If you stall, there will be consequences." I said, "You already dropped them." He hung up on me like a teenager. I know some people will say, "Just walk away. Cut them off. Sleep on a friend's couch." If you've ever dealt with a medical crisis, you know how stupid that sounds. You need stability like you need oxygen. You need your stuff where you can find it, and the kettle where it belongs, and a place to cry where you don't have to apologize to anyone. You need a shower that doesn't require a map. Also, moving costs money and time, and the kind of brain that isn't running on fumes. 2 days after Dad's letter, I got a group text from Mom titled "Family Matters." It was a wall of words about legacy and responsibility and remembering who was there for you. She said my sister's seminar would open doors for her we only dreamed of, and that, as a family, we must prioritize. She said I'd become hostile since I fell under the influence of my partner. She said refusing to share details creates suspicion. She said she felt unsafe visiting my house because I might lash out. I typed and deleted a dozen replies. In the end, I wrote, "Stop. No more group messages about me. If you have something to say it to me like I'm a person, not a project." My phone rang with Dad's number before I put it down. "You don't get to police how your mother processes," he said. I said, "She doesn't get to recruit an audience for a fight she started." He said, "We should have never offered you the house." I said, "You shouldn't make promises you don't plan to keep." He said, "You're impossible." I said, "I'm finally just not easy." I keep hearing his sentence in my head. "We should have never offered you the house." And I replay scenes like a petty editor. The day they handed over the keys, Dad tossed them to me like a set of car keys to a teenager and said, "Don't screw it up." Mom took photos. She cried. She made me pose on the porch, then made me redo it because my smile wasn't wide enough. She made a slideshow set to a soft pop song and posted it that night with a paragraph about blessings. I read the comments and thought I'd finally done the thing that earns peace. It never comes, does it? You can keep doing tricks until your legs break, and they'll still ask for one more. Meanwhile, in my actual life, the one without filters, we prepped for surgery. We printed a checklist of things to pack, and it makes me feel like a competent adult, which is funny because the checklist includes charger and snacks like I'm about to board bus. We walk the neighborhood in the evenings to burn off nervous energy and to talk about anything except hospitals. My partner jokes about demanding a souvenir mug that says, "I survived." I say I'll get them one that says, "I survived and ignored my in-laws." They're not my in-laws, but the joke lands. We're not married because the idea of inviting my family to a public ritual makes my skin crawl. I used to feel guilty about that. I don't anymore. I want a ceremony with people who celebrate, not people who judge the table linens and whisper about the registry. My sister came to town for the seminar. I offered dinner. She said she was busy. She tagged a restaurant on her story, and Mom commented with hard eyes. I scrolled past it like it was an ad for toothpaste. I'm trying not to make her my enemy. She didn't ask for the golden child crown. She wore it because it keeps the sun off. People survive families any way they can. Some of us build houses out of holes in the drywall. Some of us smile and say thank you when people hand us keys they plan to take back. My partner's parents dropped off a bag with frozen meals and a note that said, "No returns." It made me laugh so hard I nearly choked. Their mom hugged me and whispered, "You're not alone." I have no idea how to accept that without bracing for the slap that usually comes next. It doesn't come. I sit at my table and eat lasagna and realize I've been hungry for more than food. There was one more blow up, because of course there was. Mom decided to come check on me unannounced. She let herself in with her copy of the key. I was on the floor assembling a stupid rolling cart because the pantry situation is a war. She looked at the piles of boxes and said, "Oh, good. You're packing already." I said, "No, I'm reorganizing. We're focusing on the hospital." She did a tight smile. "You should focus on being responsible." "Please leave," I said. I didn't raise my voice. It felt like putting down a bag I'd carried too long. She put a hand to her chest like I'd struck her. "This is how you talk to your mother?" "This is how I talk to people who ignore my boundaries," I said. "Leave. Call first next time. That's bare minimum respect." She bristled. "If you make me your enemy, don't call me when you need me." "I won't," I said, and realized it was true. She stared. She expected me to scramble, to placate. I didn't. She walked out like a queen exiting a stage, and I sat on the floor and laughed again because my life has turned into a tragicomedy where the props are IKEA. Dad texted, "Change the locks. We'll consider that hostile." I replied, "Per my lawyer, you're not allowed to enter without notice." That was a bluff. I don't have a lawyer on speed dial. I do have Google and common sense. He wrote back, "Your attitude will have consequences." He loves that word. It's his entire parenting style. Consequences without causes. I started writing this because I feel guilty for the part of me that wants to stall. I know how this looks to people who think in straight lines. They paid for the house. They can take it back. Sure, legally, they can probably push this through. Morally, they're choosing the nuclear option while we hang strings of hope across a hospital bed. I'm not refusing to move. I'm refusing to move right now, on their schedule, to perform obedience while a surgeon schedules a date that makes my bones cold. I'm refusing to turn a health crisis into a family theater production with me as the villain and my mother as lead soprano. If you need numbers, the hotel money they demanded for my sister was within 100 of what we asked for as a loan. The house has 2 bedrooms. I replaced the water heater out of pocket. I rewired the living room because the outlet sparked. I upgraded the front door because the latch was a joke. Now it locks like a bank vault. The binder of receipts could stop a bullet. I offered a written rental agreement at market rate until we got through surgery. They said no because principle. Their principle seems to be control at all costs. And yes, my father has a high-income job. They own 2 rentals. If they were truly desperate for money, they could list one tomorrow and have a tenant by the weekend. They don't need my tiny place that still smells like lemon oil and grout. They want compliance. They wanted to learn that when they say jump, I keep my knees bent and my mouth shut. So would I be the asshole if I buy time by ignoring them and letting them sue me if they wish to? That's the question, stripped of all the family soap opera. If they file, they file. Paper moves slow. I won't trash the place. I won't camp out when a judge says leave. I'll do it when my partner can walk up the stairs without my hand under their elbow. I'll do it when I can move boxes without checking a patient portal between each one. If that makes me the villain in my parents' story, fine. I'm done auditioning for the role of good child. I'm not asking for a GoFundMe link or sympathy casseroles. I'm asking strangers because strangers don't have a stake in my obedience. If you think I'm wrong, say it. If you think I'm enabling a cycle, say it. If you have a trick for getting lemon oil out of old wood without the whole house smelling like a tree fart, say that too. I am listening. I am tired. I'm the kind of tired that makes your eyes burn when you shower. A few people will say family is everything. Family is people who bring you soup and wait with you at 3 a.m. and don't post your pain for likes. Family is people who hear, I can't talk about that right now, and reply, okay. Family is people who take your keys when you've had 2 beers and hand them back when you're sober and don't gloat. Family is people who don't time their demands to the worst moment of your life to prove a point. I keep picturing the night after the consult when my partner fell asleep on the couch with a heating pad and a blanket that doesn't match anything because we never figured out matching. I sat on the floor and stared at the grooves in the coffee table. I sanded myself. My hands looked older than they used to. I didn't feel small. I felt certain. I can't fix my parents. I can build a life that doesn't revolve around avoiding their storms. I can choose a person and stand with them, and if the house becomes part of the story I tell later, the house I love that taught me to leave, fine. Let it be that. For now, I'll call the bluff. I'll open the door to nurses, not to surprise inspections. I'll keep the binder of receipts in case a judge cares. I'll keep packing one box at a time when I can, and I'll label them like a nerd because future me deserves that kindness. I'll pay the utilities and mow the tiny strip of grass and water the plant that somehow survived all this, because it feels like proof a living thing can't thrive in chaos if you move it into the sun sometimes. If I'm the asshole for refusing to sprint when someone who's supposed to love me lights the starting pistol on my back while I'm holding someone's hospital bag, then I guess I'm the asshole. If I'm not, tell me I'm not crazy for choosing the living human over the brick box. Either way, I'm going to do it. My priorities lie with my partner's well-being and smooth recovery. I do not wish to rush under these conditions. Afterwards, I am moving forward to change my accommodation situation as soon as possible. And when I hand over the keys, because eventually I won't pose on the porch. I won't let anyone take a photo. I'll put the keys in an envelope, seal it, and slide it under a door I rebuilt with my own hands. Then I'll take my binder and my partner and whatever fits into the car, and I'll leave the house to the people who thought it was a leash. It never was. It was a lesson. I finally learned it.